Are you ready? Yeah.
Alrighty. Hey, we're back. It is Monday, and today is weekend news roundup. So we got a bunch of crap to talk about. Crap is maybe the wrong word. A bunch of stuff.
You want to restart? You want to take a deep breath and have some mindfulness about the weekend news roundup? Holy moly. You know, on LinkedIn this weekend, I had a lot of people just chatting arbitrarily saying that it's really hard to get caught up after the weekend because there's so much news, especially if you're in DeFi. There's so many drops and so much going on. How are you supposed to stay caught up? And that's literally why we do this.
That's what we're here for. So today we're going to talk about the Super Bowl and how that affects crypto, if it does at all. We're going to talk about Victoria's VR and Apple Vision Pro, because apparently that was a big deal, of which I didn't participate. We're going to talk a little bit about Ripple and kind of where they're going, some predictions about a crypto tsunami.
Well, we've got over $800 million of token unlocks in February, which is huge.
Yeah, it's huge as long as people don't dump them. It's also huge if people do dump them.
Yeah. And then we have Genesis and Jupiter, which are a little bit last week, but I felt like we should touch on them because they're still pretty hot on Twitter. And if we have time, we'll talk about Puffer Finance.
Puffer Finance. All right. Let's get ready to rumble. Where's that new video? There it is.
It's Super Bowl season. Are you a Super Bowl guy? Do you have like Super Bowl parties with chili and chips? And I don't know, what else do people have at Super Bowls?
I'm not a foosball guy.
Big bowls of, that's
cheese.
What a Super Bowl is, right? I don't know.
It's like incredibly unhealthy and a lot of drinking, I think, is what happens. I was confused actually whether it's this weekend or next weekend.
I had to check. It's next weekend. It's February 11th.
So that's about how serious I am.
But there's so much speculation about the Super Bowl already. Apparently it's going to be a huge deal this year because of the whole Taylor Swift dating Travis thing. So people think that there's going to be like a huge influx of viewers for the Super Bowl in case Taylor Swift shows up, which means like the most white girls ever are going to watch the Super Bowl, I guess.
It's crazy, but it's good for Super Bowl marketing. Think of all that extra money they're going to make on those commercials.
So good. Well, commercials this year are about $7 million for a 30-second spot.
That's less than normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cheaper than normal.
Like a lot less than normal, which is kind of what we need to talk about the Super Bowl, is that Super Bowl last year and for the last couple of years has been a lot of tech, a lot of big, I don't want to say luxury products, but like extra products. Yeah. And this year we are back to comfort foods, mayonnaise, Budweiser,
Coke,
Oreo.
Yeah.
So one, that's who still has budget. And two, I think that's pretty reflective of where people are feeling they are economically right now.
Yeah. And I mean, the last couple of years, as evidenced by crypto.com and the Formula One and FTX and the Miami Heat arena and all these other things that they're all seemingly supporting. A lot of the stimulus money went into tech. Like that was where a lot of it flowed when everybody was expanding during COVID, which is hilarious and kind of crazy at the same time. Oh, wow. And so all these guys had tons of cash and no foresight. These guys, I mean, there's some areas that we've had really crappy foresight too. So it's not a burn necessarily.
It's always necessarily foresight, but it's like, is this going to be the best spend for us? And when you're in a bull, everything seems like it's the best spend.
Seems like a genius idea.
We had Coinbase, Crypto.com, FTX, and eToro all had major ad spots at the Super Bowl. And this year we will see none of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think tech in general over the last 12 months, in the wake of the regional banking problems and all of these other things, there was tons, not just because of that, but there was tons of layoffs that happened all kind of concurrently from all major tech companies and so on and so forth. So I think we probably just won't see a ton of that froth from tech for a minute. Although that being said, a lot of these SaaS companies are now, software as a service, are now reporting increase in seats again. So
it's true.
When people are doing layoffs, what happens to all these SaaS and subsequent tech add-ons is they all get less and less users, seats. right?
Mhm.
And so when you if Facebook lays off 20,000 people, Salesforce or Oracle or any of these like major tech platforms, SaaS platforms, Slack, Zoom, Google, like they all lose tons of revenue. And so
you also, if you have major layoffs, you need more people to be able to access the tech because you probably laid off admins and middle management, right? So I can see there being a bit of a correlation. But one of the things I'm worried about with people not seeing crypto in the Super Bowl isn't just the market sentiment for those of us who are in crypto, but is that normalization. I remember in 2022, this was a big deal because it was like, oh, crypto is advertising, it's mainstream, we're normal now. But if we've really taken a step back, do you think this will be less adoption for the upcoming season?
I guess that it depends if you think people actually invest in crypto because of a commercial or participate because of a commercial. I mean, obviously, marketing, advertising, and commercials have some impact because people are willing to spend $7 million for a 30-second slot. You just have to think, I guess, from like a macro perspective, is it more kind of just another example of seeing big brands that is why it's valuable? Like I see Coinbase on TV commercials, on internet ads. I see Coinbase on, like it's about that repetition of seeing those brands. I think seeing a crypto brand for the first time, like I always laugh when they talk about a minute slot in the Times Square on all those screens. I'm like, cool. It sounds great that you got up there for a minute and you got all these eyeballs, but none of them know what you are and forgot about you as soon as the screen changed. So I think that's maybe, I don't really think it matters, to be honest. Like, I don't think anybody's watching the Super Bowl. I mean, Coinbase, I think it was last year, they had that thing where there was like a promo code and you got 10 free dollars or some nonsense. Right. It like broke their servers. Like Coinbase died.
I think that was 2022 when people were stoked about it.
Yeah, I think that was a couple of years ago because last year at this time.
Well, in any case, it looks like people are going to try to escape reality by watching the Super Bowl next weekend. And they have a reality that they want to escape because, you know, our ads are about mayonnaise. But other people are trying to escape reality too by locking into VR. You're a big Apple head. Do you care about Victoria VR?
So yes, I think it's cool. I definitely didn't buy one. And I won't probably for the foreseeable future. What I thought was interesting is they launched with 600 apps.
Yeah. So the deal here is that Victoria VR has announced their first metaverse app for Apple's Vision Pro headset. People are excited about this because it's technically a Web3 tech integration. Apparently it has great graphics and great gameplay for a metaverse, which is pretty cool. But the app hasn't actually launched yet. They've just announced that they're going to launch. So it's a lot more indication than what's actually going on.
Yeah. So I was commenting maybe from a higher.
Yeah. You're commenting on the Apple headset
VR in general. And so, but that leads into this. So do I think the Victoria VR thing is cool? Yes. I think it is cool. I think them and 599 other applications that are all promising, amazing metaverse experiences. So it really will come down to who has the best kind of guerrilla viral marketing approach at first to gain traction for their applications. And then of course it's going to come down to who can build actually the better tech. I think but it's going to be a combination of both. The best tech with no marketing and PR doesn't win usually. And so it'll be interesting to see how this works. I think what I'm excited about is it's a huge step in VR. Especially because it can be AR VR too. So you can see through it. There's speculation now that there's a lot of apps that'll be bolted on to like sports games and different things where it shows like stats of using baseball as an example, the pitcher and the hitter on the screen, like in your glasses while you're watching the show on TV. Anyways, there's some really cool stuff that I think they're talking about doing. I'm excited about it because this is the first time that we've actually had meaningful technology that in theory is scalable. It's still it's entirely outside the price range of mass market. But I suspect give it a year and it might.
I guess probably the token isn't outside of range in mass market. So the VR token is on ETH. People are excited about that. Yeah.
So I struggle with that too, because it's really hard to tell where, why, and how a token is needed for this currently.
Yeah.
For any of it, honestly. And so I think that's something as a space. Maybe this is for another topic. Maybe we can do one of our panel special topics. Can kind of potentially be on this type of thing, but I don't know. We'll see whether tokens are useful or not. I think there's so many applications that have tokens that shouldn't. And the way that we use tokens currently is, in my opinion, not sustainable or scalable. So it's a conversation I think we as a space need to have. But yeah, we'll see. I struggle with the VR token. To me, it sounds like a cash grab. To be honest.
Well, in theory, it's going back to the users and those who are actively staking it. But hard to say if that's true or not, especially when we see a lot of the different regulations happening in the States. Are you even going to be able to buy that token? Is it going to be good for you to buy that token? Hard to know, but there are some players like Ripple who are trying to make that easier for you. So Ripple is extraordinarily expanding into US payment services, which I think is a pretty big deal. So they actually have money transmitter licenses. And although 90% of their activity has been outside of America, so they have some pretty good, they have a pretty good track record is what I'm trying to say here. They are now expanding within the States as well.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about this for months, actually, year.
They're doing it
now. And I think, for a lot of people, it was puzzling why in the middle of a lawsuit of that size and magnitude, they were pushing so hard globally for regulated opportunities and acquiring stuff. And to most people, it was like, what? But it turns out that it was genius, because now they're like
so good,
perfectly positioned to take advantage of this narrative. So good for them. Good for Ripple. Again, I'm a big fan. If nothing else, because they fought the good fight on behalf of the space and spent a lot of money doing so. It probably would have been easier for them to just fold and walk away with however many millions they've already taken off the table. But they didn't. They stuck it out and pushed back a little bit so that we could get some more clarity. So I'm a big fan of Ripple in general right now, not necessarily because of anything in particular other than that. I think that's huge. So.
If you are big on tokens, there's the VR token that I guess you could purchase. You could really invest in Ripple because they're investing in you, or you can take part in the $800 million worth of unlocks happening in DeFi. I see this as pretty strange for it to all be happening in February, and it's quite huge. It's Avalanche, Apecoin, Optimism, Aptos, Sandbox, I believe. It looks giant. What's going on in February?
Nothing. I think it's honestly somewhat of a coincidence. And there's been a lot of kind of narrative around whether this is good or bad. I personally am somewhat partial now to linear vesting, so that you don't get this kind of nonsense. I mean, we've lived it with Avalanche being early investors. We've lived all the unlocks and the speculation around it and what it does and this and that. Aptos is also another one of those examples of a fairly high market cap token that now is getting a pile of liquidity again. And so if you look at the amount that's being unlocked relative to the market caps of those projects, it's not as drastic. If there was 30 million of Benki coming unlocked, we would be a little bit more concerned, I think, than, I mean, it's not something to ignore. Aptos and Avalanche account for 500 million of it. So, I mean, but again, let's split that in half. 250 million compared to Avalanche's almost 20 billion in market cap. Maybe not as crazy as we originally thought. Go ahead.
One of the things I think is really wacky here is that we're seeing the opposite happening with Bitcoin. So the halving is coming up in, was it April, right? And that's going to drive the price up because there's going to be less supply. And what we have historically seen, for example, with 1inch, is that when we do these massive unlocks, we drive the price down, at least temporarily. So it's kind of an odd dichotomy. Like there's two very different strategies happening, obviously on different networks and what have you, with different communities. I'm not trying to compare apples to oranges, but it's interesting to see all of these different types of economic strategies amongst different tokens and different communities. And I'm excited to see the outcome, but I'm also a little bit nervous.
Yeah, I personally don't think there's going to be much of a tsunami.
No?
Because here's why.
What's it going to do with all these coins?
Well, so just wait. So these unlocks are generally for people that have been around for a minute, right? Like in order to be an Avalanche getting unlocked still, you had to be around in 2018. Right. And Aptos, not quite so much, but almost. Like it was 20, you had to be around in 2019, 20 when Aptos was being imagined already, probably to get in. Or for the sale, 21 for sure, to get into the pre-sale, seed sale. Anyways, all of that to say, those people most likely, if they haven't been living under a rock since they invested, know that we're still in the fairly early stages of a bull. And if you still believe in those projects, it would be crazy to sell now for most people. So it's hard to separate ourselves from the experience we had for the last 2 years, because it was quite the opposite. Unlocks happen, people dump. They try to dump before anybody else can so that they can, recover as much value as they can. This, I think, might not be as drastic. Who knows? We'll see. I'm hopeful. I'm positive that it might not be a disaster. I guess it also comes down to, do people believe Aptos and Avalanche and others are going to be good performers this cycle?
Yes. People always want to make a buck, right?
Yeah.
Which I guess is kind of what we could think about with Genesis right now too. If you really want to make a buck, Genesis Global Capital is in the middle of bankruptcy and trying to sell $1.4 billion in Grayscale Bitcoin Trust shares. So they've asked for permission to do this. If you have always wanted a Grayscale Bitcoin Trust share, this might be your time.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody wants Grayscale Bitcoin Trust anymore. They have some of the highest fees of all the ETFs. And so there's a whole bunch of narrative around why Grayscale's had so many redemptions of their trust shares. So I don't know. We'll have to see. It shouldn't impact the market drastically, because most likely what they would be doing is buying those shares and probably liquidating them.
Right.
So I don't know. There would have to be an arbitrage opportunity for anybody to do it. They'd have to be purchased at a discount, of course. Will it crater the market? I don't think so.
No?
If they dumped $1 billion all at once, maybe. But it's $1 trillion asset. So
you don't think we're going to see a bunch of people saying like, oh my God, look what I've made?
No. Is that a picture of you from the 80s?
That's a picture of me right now.
Yeah, it looks pretty accurate. But joking aside, no, I don't know. I really don't know what I think about this one. The vast majority of the Bitcoin that Grayscale sold before, which was in the same neighborhood, didn't really do much to the price of BTC. So we'll have to see. Let's see what happens. I'm not sure it's going to be this crazy thing. Regulators would also be ridiculous if they allowed them to sell 1 billion at once. Given that they need to try to protect Bitcoin because they just approved ETFs. So
true.
We'll have to see. I'm not really sure about that one. I don't think it's going to be a massive sink. I don't think.
All right. Well, that's exciting.
Let's just get not financial advice. Purely speculative.
Oh yeah, counter trade JD at all costs.
Yeah. Probably short Bitcoin.
I wish I'd counter traded you on Sol right now with Jupiter out there.
Yeah, Jito too is out there, which is pretty interesting. But
so Jupiter actually surged past Uniswap with 480 mil in volume at the end of last week. Yeah,
mainly driven by a meme coin, but 480 million in volume in 24 hours doesn't suck. That's a pretty good amount of volume. Wake me up when they do it consistently for a minute. But still impressive, honestly. I'm not trying to poo-poo on their success because it's pretty cool. But
so are you saying you didn't buy when meme coin?
No. Have we met? I don't usually buy meme coins. I struggle entirely.
Well, this one even had meme coin in the name, so I just thought maybe.
Well, it's just called when.
Maybe you went for it. No?
Nope, not this time. Probably should have, obviously.
So the other thing that I thought was interesting about this is obviously the airdrop for the when memecoin targeted Solana users who had already interacted with Jupiter, because that's how you reintegrate with people. But they also targeted people with the Solana Sega phone. Do you know anyone with a Solana Sega phone?
No.
I thought that was a pretty cool concept. I mean, I don't know anyone who bought it. But I like the idea that people are purchasing phones from the networks, that they are preloading with DeFi, that they want to have DeFi in the palm of their hand, and they can make quick decisions based on drops that are on the network of their phone, like immediately. So I would like to see some numbers about how many people with the Solana Sega phone actually bought got the when airdrop.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm partial to Jambo's phone.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's $99. The whole point is to bring access to these applications to all of Africa, and a smartphone made by one of the largest manufacturers in the world that manufactures a major cell phone brand for $99. Like, that's kind of insane, honestly. And it's really cool. I'm actually getting one, an honorary one. With my name engraved on it, which is cool.
An honorary phone, love it.
Yeah, I didn't have to buy it, I guess is my point. But so I'm actually getting one, so I'll let you know. But they're coming preloaded with some apps, and you can, it's a big marketing piece. You can get your app preloaded on some of that stuff if you have, micropayments or some sort of applications that make sense for those markets. But I mean, the airdrop thing, the airdrop thing is a real thing right now. People get excited about it because it's been valuable. And as long as you can get some momentum in the ecosystem, get enough people excited about something, pardon me, I got the hiccups, get enough people excited about something, then away you go. I guess we'll find out. Find out if everybody's excited about airdrops going forward, but we'll see.
Sorry, I have a barking dog. So how about you introduce Puffer for us?
Yeah. Okay. So Puffer Finance, I'm not sure if anybody has heard about this. I need to get down to the article. Where is that? There we go. So Puffer Finance, if you haven't heard of it, is a restaking application, as far as I understand. A liquid restaking protocol. There's quite a few actually examples of this of late, where they call it a vampire attack in the article, but you take a look at applications that already have hit scale and critical mass, and you figure out how to one up them at scale and attract their users with more with some sort of gimmick. It's usually like liquidity mining is obnoxiously high, or there's some airdrop, or this, that, and the other thing. And I think there's been a few examples of this TVL prior to launch thing. Eigenlayer actually is an example of that also, where they would increase the amount that could be deposited, and within like 10 seconds, like people were building bots to get first in line to these types of things when they're going up. So, I mean, if these projects and protocols take that into consideration, you can get a lot of attention really quickly. And so in this particular case, what they were talking about is in the first day, they had 200 million in TVL. You couple probably some pretty good marketing and relatively consistent community engagement in advance. They didn't just come out of nowhere and start this, but you couple that with some sort of like airdrop excitement, and liquid restaking is like a real thing. It's a narrative that everybody's excited about right now. So yeah, the stars kind of aligned. I think it's great. They're trying to compete with Lido and others in some ways, which I think is possible. I'm not sure if Puffer does anything meaningfully unique. So some friends of ours actually are the group behind Renzo, which is actually quoted in this article, which is kind of cool. But yeah, restaking is a real thing that a lot of people are talking about, and there's some really interesting gimmicks that work for.
It's maybe not that unique, but it is hot right now.
It's hot, right? But my concern always is, what's the moat? Like, that's just kind of what I think about these things is so what's to stop the next 5 restaking platforms, because there's a lot of them. There's Rio, there's Renzo, there's these guys. Like there's a lot of restaking. I think there's room for a lot of restaking platforms. But what makes them unique? Like why are people going to stay there when the next guy does a vampire attack on you?
Right.
So you have to.
Yeah, it's maybe not the most loyal community.
Well, you hope that you can make your community loyal, but in order to have loyalty, there's got to be a reason. Either your app's got to be amazing, or you've got to be amazing, or the community has to have some benefit that is like second to none. But yeah, I struggle with all the dumb names too, to be honest. So Puffer Finance.
You don't like Jupiter? You don't like Puffer?
I don't mind Jupiter, but
how about Lido?
Lido's fine.
How about ETH? Did you love the name ETH when you first heard it?
It was a made up word. So it's like Google. Like, I thought Google sounded stupid when I first read it too. But
it still sounds stupid. It's just, effective.
But now it's just become a verb. Like it's completely permeated the culture and language.
Doesn't mean it's not a stupid verb.
So anyways, I struggle with these weird names, like food names and animal names, like pufferfish. Cool. There's an emoji that's pre-made on every platform. But I just think it unfortunately takes away from the professionalism and sophistication of some of this tech. Like, don't get me wrong, liquid restaking is really freaking cool. And I think there's a lot of potential applications for it. I've also heard that, it's very unproven. So there's a lot of potential risk vectors.
Maybe that's what's going to make us for a new DeFi spring, DeFi summer.
Maybe the restaking is unproven. Eigenlayer has a lot of narrative and momentum. And that's essentially what Eigenlayer is all about. Immutable. There's lots of other ones, but
pretty busy weekend all around. There's a lot of mainstream news about crypto. And personally, I think it's a pretty good Super Bowl win to get reported on that you're not getting reported on. I think that's a pretty good crypto win. I've got a lot of new players in the DeFi space. I think it's an exciting time for 2024. Good time to reinvigorate, go FUD yourself.
Yeah, I mean, lots going on. There's lots to talk about. That's at least exciting. It's not just like typical SEC stuff. There's actually protocols doing stuff, which is fun.
Yeah, people are active and engaged. It's exciting.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will end it there. Just a reminder to people, we are every day live show Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So like, share, subscribe, help us get the word out. And today I say to you, Kiara, go FUD yourself.
Go FUD yourself.
Bye.